Hey everyone, my name is JJ Paulson. I'm a student entrepreneur and co-founder of the tech startup Perch. I want to invite you for coffee and conversation on our weekly series, Coffee Talks. We're here to showcase the heartbeat of Gainesville's entrepreneurial spirit. I want to give a quick thank you as this series is made possible by Afternoon Roasting and Seven Ashes Productions. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and let's explore the exciting world of entrepreneurship together. Now let's meet this week's guest.
Good morning. So we're starting our second season, and we have Rebecca here. Before we jump into it, I just want to take the opportunity to share a bit where we are. We're in the Mercury studio. A lot of hard work behind the scenes by Cliff and his team at Seven Ashes. And Mercury Studio is located at or inside of Alchemy Work Club. And so if you get a chance, come check us out. And then also our partner from day one, which is Afternoon Roasting. So Cliff, if we're good to go, we'll jump into it. So Cliff, thanks again for making this happen. The live stream is happening right now, and let's get to it.
All right.
So we have Rebecca Smith here. What I'm really excited about today is just really explore, your story and also, Gainesville in general, right? You're very much community first, community focused, and also serial entrepreneur, mom, all things that all the things. So I want to start and kick us off with saying, how are you?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm tired if I'm being honest, but I'm doing really good. I have a lot of reasons to be excited, so
Okay.
doing good. Yeah.
And so I think right before this, you had a call, always on call for something, right?
Yes, actually it was a call with a potential investor, so that was
There you
that
go.
was always a good call. Yeah, it's I talked about the other day. I was sharing with somebody that the life of a founder is like just a complete roller coaster throughout the day. Like throughout the day, you go from feeling like you're on top of the world to just being super scared or worried about whatever's going on. So it's a challenging day to go through, but that means that there's always a bunch of things happening and it's always exciting. So yeah, all day long, new things, finding out new things, learning, and just moving forward.
So I would love to learn, how did you get into entrepreneurship? What's your story in regards to, your first startup or your first company was Corks and Colors, which is more public, but you've been an entrepreneur pretty much since a young age. So I would love to hear your story there.
Yeah, so I grew up in Costa Rica.
Okay.
I was born there. I lived there until I was 10. And while I lived there, I remember making bead bracelets and like going down to the corner store and buying little beads, and I would make bracelets or necklaces and I would sell them to my family. I used to sell, we had a lot of fruit trees in our yard, so I would pick lemons from our trees. I would sell them to my neighbors. So I was constantly trying to come up with a way to make money. I really enjoyed the idea of a transaction. Like I have something and you want it and you're going to give me that in exchange for that. And I just found it really interesting. So I did just little things like that, like making jewelry and trying to sell it for most of my life. And then eventually, I remember the first time I imported jewelry from another country. I imported sterling silver from Thailand. I was 19. And at that point, I was actually already pregnant with Bella, my oldest daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I would go to St. Augustine, Florida. They had a market, and I got a permit and everything, and I would go once a week to St. Augustine to sell jewelry. I think I probably did a couple shows here in Gainesville, too. So that was just like a side hustle kind of thing. And then Quirks and Colors I started right after finishing school at the University of Florida.
Okay.
And like you said, that was, a more formalized business venture. It started out with just one class, around $600 of investment. I didn't have much more than that, but I used the Santa Fe Seed Business Incubator, which allowed me to keep my costs low. And I just did I had enough supplies for one class.
Okay.
So we had our first class. The turnout was good. And I was like, okay, well, I think I'll schedule 2 more classes. And so I scheduled 2 more classes the next month, and those went well. And then I scheduled more classes, and then I bought more easels, I bought more paintbrushes, and slowly grew the business to having, 5 classes a week.
Right.
And then grew organically based on the demand of the market. And so I would have moms come in and say, hey, my kid was really sad that I didn't bring them to your painting class. Do you by chance do birthday parties? And so we started doing birthday parties. Hey, I'm signing up my kids for summer camps. Are you thinking about doing any summer camps? So we started to really expand our services. A pottery shop in town was closing down, so we decided to we bought some of their equipment. We added pottery to our inventory, added mosaics, candle making, soap making. So really grew based on what the market, what the Gainesville community was asking for, and grew self-funded. So I just reinvested everything into the business. I was working full time at the time as well, so I could do that. And then while owning Corks and Colors, took the idea of Corks and Colors, essentially made kits out of it, and sold that product to the Home Shopping Network. So that was super fun.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And then and that allowed us to have, thousands of people across the U.S. Painting our paintings and doing our crafts. And then I also had a product line that was licensed by the Collegiate Licensing Company. It was a line of glassware because there was the wine component to Corks and Colors.
Got it.
And so we made these really cute collegiate style wine glasses. And so that was Corks and Colors. I also had like a little pop-up kiosk in the mall. I had a pop-up kiosk in the Ocala Mall as well. And I sold that in 2016 to the manager that I had at the time at the store, Erica, and she's, thankfully the business is doing phenomenal. She's done a really great job at keeping it alive with its core values. And then shortly, when I knew I was going to sell Corks and Colors, I knew I needed to think about what I was going to do next. Right. I started kind of dabbling in business brokerage, so helping other business owners sell their companies. But then also knew I wanted to start another business, and I started doing these pop-up consignment sales that were really fun to have, but they were a ton of work. Right. I really liked the model of consignment. I just didn't like the setup and the breakdown associated. And I was like, I think this could be done at a smaller scale and just lower expectations of revenue. But I think this can be kind of micro localized. Right. And so I stopped doing the sales and started focusing on developing the technology for the idea that I had in my head.
What year was this?
This was 2015, 2016.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, right when I knew I was about to sell the other business.
Got it.
Yeah, and so app development is expensive.
Sure.
And I've been self-funded,
right.
and so I just went at the pace that I could. Right. And so for a period, think about that. That was 8 years ago. So technically, I've been working on Thrifty for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way that it was in the beginning was I would have extra money, and so I would have that one feature developed.
Right.
We started over like 3 times. So there were like 2 to 3 versions of the app where my idea had evolved so much further than what was developed that it was not worth keeping anymore. And so the version of the app now is very similar to the one we've had over the last 3 years, I would say. And everything just moves slower for me because of being self-funded. So
you've been bootstrapping since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So pre-Corks and Colors have an exit, move over to Thrifty. And so just through your journey, and I believe, like you shared earlier, you're on a call with investors. So Thrifty, you're finally taking the leap and getting investors on board. And so from your experience bootstrapping, particularly in Gainesville, right? That's the great thing about this community is there's a lot of resources. Yeah. And you mentioned about Santa Fe Seed. Mm-hmm. So when you were doing your classes, did you do it out of the seed facility or?
I did. Yeah.
Got it.
So Doug Jones and Bill Dorman were the individuals that were leading the seed in that moment, and we would turn a seminar room They gave me permission.
Got it. Got it.
It did not look like an art studio at all, but basically I would tarp the floor. I would
Got
put
it.
paintings up all over, and I would try to make it as cool as possible.
Got it.
But when I tell you that that was the only way that I could have started that business,
course, of
I'm
course.
being super honest. I think I was only paying like $90 a month to use that space. And then eventually I graduated to paying a higher monthly fee. But what they facilitated for me was incredible, because what happens is a lot of people have ideas. I knew that I was capable of executing on the idea, but financially in that moment in my life, there was no way for me to get additional money to build the business. So I had to find a way to do it with what I had,
Sure.
which was not much. And so the space that they gave me really facilitated me being able to build that business. And then the way that I built it organically and not pulling money from it for the first couple of years allowed me to be able to eventually graduate from the seed and get our own actual art studio space.
So for those don't know, the Seed is the Santa Fe incubator.
That's right.
Santa Fe has the main campus. Seed has a building, or at the time, a smaller building in downtown Gainesville. Blunt Hall has grown quite a bit. It's a bigger building now. And so you essentially, through the help of Seed, able to open a brick and mortar without necessarily the burden of a lease and all that comes with having, a physical store.
Yeah.
So you have a physical store, and also allows for you to get things going without, really seeking investor or getting additional resources that you did not have at the time.
Yeah, and it also allowed me to validate that the idea was worth taking outside of the business incubator.
Got it.
It gave us the time to be able to test the different products, the different sizes of canvases, the times for our classes. So it was like a learning ground, essentially, for us to perfect what we were working on, so that when we left, we were in a really good spot. We knew what we were doing by then.
And how long was that incubation period there?
2 years.
So you were there for 2 years. Cash flowing, continue to reinvest. And then when did you start creating your own kit to start selling to others?
So that was in 2014 was when we developed the
Got it.
kit.
Okay.
And we assembled them all here in Gainesville, Florida, and shipped them to the Home Shopping Network. And so, yeah, that was in 2014. And by then, we had expanded the product line to soap making and candle making. So those were also the kits that we sold to the Home Shopping Network.
All the meanwhile, you have a full-time job as well, too.
So I transitioned out of the full-time job, I think, in 2013.
Got it.
Late 2012, 2013. But I did have a full-time job for the beginning. What was nice is, when you start a business, I think that people create, I was just talking about this the other day, create a lot of limitations and expectations as to how things need to be done. I didn't have a choice. So all I could do was offer classes in the evening after my job ended. That was the only way I could start it. And then on the weekends. So that's what I did.
Right.
And that's how the business started, which to me is hopefully a good example for people. Like there is no which way to do it. Just find a way that's attainable now and give it a shot, and just do that until you can do more. Right.
Got it. Yeah. So let's put a pin on the entrepreneurship part.
Okay.
I would love to. What brought you to Gainesville? Like, why are you here, and how long have you been here?
Oh, I've been here for pretty much around 30 years. So I turned 40. I just gave away my age. I turned 40 next month. I'm actually really excited to turn 40.
It's a big decade.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. But I moved to the U.S. when I was 10 years old.
Got it.
And I moved from Costa Rica.
Straight to Gainesville.
Straight to Gainesville. So my dad is a conservationist.
Got it.
He was working for a nonprofit that had an office in New York and one in Gainesville. And in 1994, Gainesville was voted the #1 town to live in. And so it was a no-brainer. We were coming to Gainesville.
Okay.
So that's where we moved. And myself, my 2 siblings, my mom and my dad.
Got it.
And then I lived in Alabama for a few years as well. And then, of course, Gainesville sucks you back in. And I came back, and I'm married to a City of Gainesville firefighter.
Okay.
Both of my girls are here. My oldest goes to the University of Florida. So we're hardcore Gainesville people.
So community through and through.
Yes.
And from my understanding of your story, right, is that while you are doing the entrepreneur stuff and supporting the family and growing the family, you always have an interest in giving back and contributing to the community. And so could you share a bit about your latest time commitment in regards to volunteering with Start GNV and what the organization is about?
Yeah. So Start GNV is an organization. It's a nonprofit here in Gainesville, and it promotes entrepreneurship and innovation in our community, in our area. And I was invited to apply to be a board member and got selected as a board member, I think a couple of years ago, and then just kind of took a more active role in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months. And, the idea, I've always tried to promote entrepreneurship formally and informally, right? And so my involvement with Start GNV kind of formalizes it a little bit. But in reality, when people know that you've started a business or that you know a little bit about business, there's constant conversation going around. And one of the things that I know that I needed when I started was community. And I still need community. I need people who understand what I'm talking about or the things that I'm going through or who have expert recommendations that I can tap into. And I think that sometimes you can't access that community or you don't know where to start or it's a little bit embarrassing to ask the questions that you have. And so I've, formally and informally have participated with entrepreneurs in town to encourage them to pursue their ideas or to brainstorm solutions to some of the things that they're facing or just as support for the journey, which is a challenge. But yeah, and so lately it's been a little bit more intense with Start GNV because we really saw an opportunity. So COVID really changed a lot of things, and everybody knows that. But I think a lot of organizations are still trying to figure out who they are after COVID. And there's an opportunity for a lot of organizations to reimagine themselves or revamp their programming. So Start GNV is kind of in that phase where we know the community needs us. We know the things that we've offered so far have been engaging for the community, but we really want to do more and we want to do things that are intentional. So we set out with a survey recently, and that's the bulk of the work that I've been working on, is just to understand what the needs of the community are so that we can craft programming that supports those needs. And basically so far what we've heard is that people want more opportunities to network and to be a community, and they also want more opportunities to learn. And so that's wonderful because now we're in a position where we can say, okay, we're going to literally give you exactly what you asked for. And so the programming that's going to be developed for Start GNV to offer to the community will align with what the community has told us they want in the surveys.
Got it. So when you started Corks and Colors, was it an organization like Start GNV existed?
There was. I think back then it was called Gain. Right? And I'm trying to remember. I feel like there was another name somewhere in between. So it's an organization. Gosh, I feel like I've heard the number 30 years.
It's been around, 80s, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it's been around for a really long time. What's really cool is to talk to the people who were a part of it, many, many years ago. The intention was the same, which is why Gainesville is such a cool place. Because we've had now decades of individuals who have seen the need and have devoted the time to continue to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in our community.
And you're the perfect example in regards to, looking at the resources, make use of the resources and really grow from there, right? And so you mentioned Seed, that Start GNV, and giving your position now from the board of Start GNV and reimagining, right? Speaking from my own experience, so I've been here now for 24 years. So I came here for undergrad and stay here and now building a family here, right? And so one of my observations through, my time here is that we have such a great concentration of human capital, a lot of talent, and both from the university, Santa Fe, but just the general population here. From your experience, how do we build a community to help entrepreneurs like yourself that can harness all the different, great resources we have, not just the capital, not just the incubation, but as you mentioned, the classes and the networking and things like that. So as a board, have you guys tracked down how do you harness all the good stuff that we have going on here?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's going to be, I think we want to do that.
Sure.
That's definitely on our list of things we want to achieve. Start GNV, I think, really wants to be the liaison, right? The connector.
Right.
And we need that.
Right.
We need that because, to your point, we have so many wonderful resources and incredibly brilliant people that are in and out of our community every 4 years, or every 2 years, depending on what they're studying. And we don't have a centralized effort to try to connect all these resources and people.
Got it.
And so that I think is like a no-brainer, like some sort of directory or some sort of resource database, right? The other thing that I've sort of been promoting is that what an entrepreneur needs in that moment, like I find that a lot of advice and resources that are available for entrepreneurs is very it's too far out into the future. It relates to a future point in time for that entrepreneur. It doesn't address where they're at right now, which is typically strapped for funds and strapped for resources. And so I think what I have wanted our community to do is to really support the idea of businesses starting. Just like facilitate that part. Become really good at that part.
Got it.
We can be the place where people feel really good about starting businesses because we have the resources. They can find information quickly. They have a way to test their products. Like we can be that community that facilitates that for people. We because of the dynamics and the infrastructure of Gainesville, we may not be the community that keeps all of these companies in the future. But I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I believe in perfecting your craft, defining what you're going to be really good at, and just being really, really good at that. I think we can be a really good place for people to start businesses. I really believe that. And one of the ways is going back to this idea of receiving advice that is timely and relevant is having access to expertise. Like there were so many times where if I could have just asked one person one question, it would have solved so much for me or prevented so many mistakes for me. And all I needed was that person to be in my village and for me to know who they were and for somebody to connect me with them. But that wasn't always available. I think that's a missing piece of the puzzle. And so I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The good news is that I think we are aware that it needs to be done. So we're at the beginning of starting to implement all the things that we want to, all the programs and all the ideas that we have.
So let's return back to your startup journey, right? And so you mentioned Thrifty really started back in 2015, 2016. You've been very much steadily moving in that direction. Course and Colors, for the most part, is your brick and mortar physical. Thrifty has the digital element, it's app-based. Where do you see Thrifty is over the next, let's just say 3 to 5 years, right? Given all the things that got you to this point and what you're aiming to do. Could you share a little bit more about where Thrifty is? Yeah, where Thrifty is going over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes. So there's multiple business models for Thrifty. The one that we are actively in market with right now is the having Thrifty managers sell things for other people. And it's very much reliant on the app. However, we are exploring a brick and mortar retail model, a little bit different. It's like a little twist on consignment. But in theory, we would have the flagship store open up here in Gainesville in the next few months. So that's potentially in the works. Which I'm super excited about. And so the idea is to test, and we would still leverage the technology that we've already built, right? And so the app would still be used for the brick and mortar stores. If it goes well, then the plan would be to franchise the concept or grow it geographically in some way. But the plans for Thrifty right now is to continue growing our user count. So we're a two-sided marketplace. In the next 3 to 5 years, my goal is to have 5,000 Thrifty managers across the United States. I'd like to have a presence in at least one international market, probably Canada. We do get a lot of inquiries in Canada. I want to have retail partnerships established. So have these large brands, for example, Anthropologie, Patagonia, Lululemon, that would directly contract with Thrifty to resell their secondhand goods or their liquidated items.
Got it.
And I want to be a B Corp in 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And then it's very possible that at some point we'll have an exit.
Okay.
And so that's definitely in the cards for us as well.
So for those who don't know Thrifty, could you give maybe your elevator pitch of what is Thrifty? And yeah.
Sure. So Thrifty helps people sell things they no longer use.
Got it. Okay.
We do that by matching them with a Thrifty manager who takes the items, sells them, and splits their revenue with you.
So the business model relies on almost like a concierge type of deal, right? So if I want to sell something, I'm not going through and trying to figure out and all that. I have somebody that can, or I have a Thrifty manager come and help me, get my stuff listed and carry me through the whole process.
So it's actually incredibly hands-off for you. So if you have things in your house that you don't use, you're going to download the app, find a manager close to you.
Right.
And then depending on where you're located, you may have to ship your items.
Sure.
You may hand your items to your manager. The manager takes the items and you don't have to worry about anything. You're just going to get paid when the item sells.
Beautiful.
The manager does all the listing work. They photograph the items. They list the items on popular marketplaces. They sell them. They ship the items.
Okay.
All you do after you hand your stuff is just sit and wait to get paid. So we are the easiest way to sell things that you no longer use.
Got it.
And so a lot of what people will say is, well, why wouldn't I sell things? Why wouldn't I just sell it myself? Well, you absolutely can.
Right.
In fact, you should. You're going to maximize how much money you're going to make. The reality is that most people don't want to sell their own stuff.
Correct.
And they reach a certain level of an income where selling the stuff doesn't really, the payoff doesn't really make sense to them.
Right.
And so they keep the items, they store them
Yep.
for a long time because they still see value in the
Right.
items. And then eventually something happens, company's coming, or they're moving, and they have to just donate everything without giving those items the opportunity to be monetized again.
Right.
And so we are a really good solution for those people, for the
Right.
people who don't want to sell the items themselves, but still have nice things and they would like to monetize them in some way.
So from a more day-to-day, you have like the estate sales where you have the scenario like you mentioned, right? The whole house full of stuff, right? And then also in our country, you have a lot of storages popping up everywhere because people just don't want to let go of that stuff, right? And it's just there. And so the job of the manager is not only to maximize, but really psychologically, right? Get them to let go of that stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to build is our ideal personality profile for both members
Right.
and managers.
Got it.
Because if you're still really emotionally attached to the value of your items, we're not the right solution for you.
Right.
Now, we have to maximize the value of the items. That's how we make money. So we want to get every dollar we can. But the manager has to have full discretion over the price of the item,
Right.
and they're allowed to discount the item to try to encourage the sale of the item. And so if you're still really emotionally attached to the value of the items or to that item,
Right.
we're not the right solution for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So as far as identifying, so if I'm a manager and I want to join Thrifty as a manager, there's training, there's the whole
Yeah.
process of getting, that person up to speed in regards to how you guys do things.
Yeah, so being a reseller it's a career. I mean,
Right.
we have managers that have been professional resellers, and they're making over 6 figures
Right.
reselling things from home. So it
Right.
can be a very lucrative career from home. We do have a 15-module online training course for individuals that have never been a reseller. We literally teach you everything you need to know to become a professional reseller.
Got it.
Right now, our managers are actually individuals that have been reselling.
Right.
So the first kind of level of manager that we're accepting right now, really they have to have experience reselling. And then I would say that in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be in a position to start accepting managers that have never been resellers because we'll have the infrastructure and a team to support them.
Got it.
They're going to be doing something entirely new. And so that's why right now I'm focusing on experienced resellers, and that's who's playing the role of Thrifty managers right now.
And the app is essentially very critical to
Yeah.
whether you're a manager and all the different things you manage, as far as the individual manager as well as the whole operation, everything runs through the app?
Everything runs through the app.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we have, multiple different types of users that can be created in the back end of the app. Each user has different interfaces that they see and different pieces of functionality. The managers have a point of sale system. That's how they cash out the transactions.
Got it.
There's a barcoded inventory system built into the app, chat functionality back and forth, reporting. The only thing that I do externally out of the app, just for protection and to reduce risk, is I make the payouts through a third-party company.
Sure.
So I export the report from the app and I pay out through a different company. That way, there's no payment information stored in the app right now. In the future, we do want to have built-in payouts, but right now, that was the path of least resistance for us, because the integration with the payout company was really expensive, and so we had to find another way to do it. So that's how we're doing it right now.
So you mentioned you built app basically feature by feature.
Yeah.
What was the very first feature that you did?
So back in the day, it was event-based. So this was before COVID. Remember, I still had these pop-up events in my head.
Got it.
I hadn't considered selling on other marketplaces as part of our business model. So back in the day, it had a drop-off time and a pickup time for when you would sell your items. It was very much event. In fact, it was like there's still code in a current app that still says events, because it was very much around beginning and an end of a time period.
Got it.
And so there was like a time picker. People could pick their drop-off spots. They could add their items to the app themselves,
Got it.
not the manager. We flip-flopped that later on. And so it was, what's interesting is Thrifty, the MVP for Thrifty was a little bit more complex than maybe a traditional MVP, because several features had to be built out, but it was pretty lean.
Got it.
It was probably like 5 different features.
So you mentioned, a couple of minutes ago in regards to having the right person, right? So who did you lean on to guide you through the app design process? What decision to make as far as what goes into the MVP? Or was that strictly you going online on YouTube and finding your own thing?
Yeah, it was mainly me. And this is like in the beginning. It was mainly me. And, as you know, when you make decisions about development, that's a very expensive decision.
Sure.
And so, I learned along the way to be really conservative about the things I was asking for in terms of development, to really think long and hard. I learned to find manual solutions to some issues and test them manually before I implemented them in the code. And so I learned myself, but then recently I hired a group of expert resellers who focus on consignment. They've been phenomenal at providing their perception as managers of improvements to the app and functionality and how they do it, outside of the app. It was really cool to find them, because basically I found people who were Thrifty managers without being Thrifty managers, and they had no technology to support them.
Right.
And so it was like this beautiful moment where we found each other. But now they are heavily involved in informing what we implement into the app.
So we have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
What I want to do with this last one is, so somebody was in your position, right? Back in 2013, they aspire to be an entrepreneur. They want to get started. How do they get a hold of you? And what is your advice in regards to getting a hold of you and engaging with you to get things moving?
For advice for entrepreneurship
Exactly.
in general? Yeah. And so I would first point out Start GNV as a resource, right?
Okay.
And so Start GNV is really a community of people that are innovative. And so we love to talk about these ideas. We love to ideate solutions. So that's your crowd. If you need a village, you're trying to start a business, connect with Start GNV. And we're all over social. We've got a website, so you can easily find us. If you want to connect with me, you can do so. The Thrifty app, app.com is our website. People can send us a form, fill there, or our email, hello@thethriftyapp.com is another one too.
So before I let you go on this particular show, walk me through. I asked before that the 3 to 5 year, looking forecasting a bit, right? In the ideal situation, how do you imagine Thrifty? You mentioned that you're looking for an exit, and you mentioned about expanding internationally, potentially Canada. Where is Thrifty? So I'll make it more specific, right? So we're in 2024, so 2029, where's Thrifty then?
So Thrifty is likely going to be, I potentially could still be the CEO of Thrifty at that point in time. We're all over the U.S. We've come really close to like maximizing the marketplace. We are generating just millions of dollars in local communities.
Right.
And giving thousands of managers an opportunity to earn a flexible income from home. So that's the people side of Thrifty, is it's very community based. I see us being a household name, everybody knowing what Thrifty is, and the relationship between the member and the manager being so organic that every month they're dropping stuff off to their manager to sell things. So.
Well, thank you so much for kicking off our second season, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.